All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
I just saw someone in the chat say you're from Glendale. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Another Glendale. I'm from Glendale, Queens, not Glendale, California. However, welcome to the show anyway. You know, right before I got on the air this morning, a friend of mine reached out to me. And listen, if you're an activist in the space, thank you guys. I appreciate it in the chat. We're good. If you're an activist in the space and you're going to go out and give a speech about politics, one of my friends was at a speech this morning. I'm not going to say who because it doesn't really matter. However, this person said to me, hey, man, the speaker is not doing the 3 Bs. Here is my best advice to you if you're going to do any public speaking. Remember the 3 Bs. Be brief, be good, and be gone. I know it sounds crazy, but even the best speeches in the world can go on too long. Be brief, be good, and be gone. The best thing that can happen is that someone can walk out of the room and go, gosh, I wish I had more. The worst thing that can happen is that somebody walks out of the room and says that thing went on too long. Worst thing, that's the worst thing possible. Because then they're going to tell, when I first got into business, I think it was Mark Levin, I'm pretty sure Mark Levin told me this. Make sure you treat everybody good because everybody you treat bad tells 200 people what a jerk you are. They're going to tell 200 people what a terrible speech it was. Remember the 3 Bs. I told you we had a big announcement about radio today. Bongino Report PM, we launched nationwide, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. By the way, we will get you a station finder. We're just signing a ton of contracts right now. It just launched. Just give us a few days. I saw a lot of people in the chat. Where can we find it? Where can I listen locally? We're going to get that to you. No sweat. Just give us some time. We just don't want to update it every single day, so we're going to give it a little bit of time. However, if there was a Bongino Report PM, why do you think we called it PM? Because there's also going to be a Bongino Report AM. AM, PM. We're launching nationwide on a lot of stations. This is why we're waiting on the station finder, a lot, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Dan, that's early in the morning. Well, listen, we want you to get the Bongino Report fix in the morning and the Ron Bongino Report fix in the afternoon, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. So if you're in your car, headed to work in the morning early, you're going to be able to get on hundreds of stations nationwide. The Dan Bongino Show in the morning as well. You'll hear some of the podcasts, some of the other content we put out there. It's going to be amazing. The show is expanding. You know, I know I really appreciate your support. It wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you to everyone out there in the Bongino Army. You guys are really great. I appreciate it. Let me get to this, and here's what I'm going to get to right in the beginning of the show. I warned the Democrats. I was not trying to help them. I was trying to help the country. I warned the Democrats that creating a refuge for a bunch of Islamo-Nazis and a bunch of commie socialists, that was going to create a problem if you waited too long, because once the concrete dries, it's hard to pull these things out. Now the Democrat crash out is happening. Should have taken my advice. I'm not trying to help the Democrats. I'm trying to help the country. They didn't listen. I'm going to get to this, and then Dolly Parton. We lost Dolly Parton yesterday. That came out of nowhere. I did not expect that. What a terrible loss for the country. What a genuinely great human being. Hey, let me tell you something. When you sign your insurance policy, for some brokers, that's the finish line. Handshake, commission, and you're done. Then you may not hear from them again until it's time for renewal. Your business runs all year, and so do the gaps and the risks. That's why I'm introducing SuperSure. If your company has more than 25 employees, whether you're the owner, CFO, or HR manager, it can be too complex to just buy a policy online. SuperSure is the super agency built for you, licensed in every state for your business insurance and employee benefits, all with year-round support for you and your team. At supersure.com, you can access tools like fine print facts, which translates your current policy into plain English so you can see what's covered and what's not. Plus a business value calculator so you can estimate what your business is worth and what needs protecting. Go to supersure.com/Bongino, one super agency, one powerful platform, all your policies in one place. That's supersure.com/Bongino, supersure.com/Bongino. Consult with a licensed insurance producer. Discuss coverage options for your specific business needs. Paid for by Supersure Insurance Agency, LLC, a licensed insurance company. Let's get this show started. All right. So, folks, briefly but importantly, this was President Trump's True Social. We lost Dolly Parton yesterday. Now, listen, I did not know Dolly Parton. I never met her in my entire life. However, I know a lot of people at Fox and elsewhere who did know her. I know a lot of people in the country music scene. It's not some stupid flex. I'm just trying to make a point. They knew Dolly. Dolly Parton was legitimately a wonderful, nice human being. Dolly Parton's been famous as long as I've been alive. I was a kid, like a young kid when 9 to 5 came out. For the generation of people now who don't know Dolly Parton, that was one of the most popular comedy movies of all time. That song was every single place on planet Earth, on radio and elsewhere, working 9 to 5. Dolly Parton was famous forever. If there was ever a person who, after decades of fame, became corrupted by it and would have been an a-hole to people, it would have been her. She wasn't. She was an amazing person. President Trump said, very sad to report Dolly Parton, one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever, has just passed away. A true loss for millions of people. There's never been anyone like her and never will. He's lowering the American flag throughout the United States for a 1-week period beginning yesterday. Rest in peace, Dolly. Amen. And indeed, what a wonderful human being. She's going to be sorely missed. Thank you for a life well lived. Dolly Parton, rest in peace. Also, folks, a little bit of tragic news as well. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment in your life. I thoroughly believe in the power of prayer. God is listening to us. The Nepal-China border, if you didn't see this just horrific video, there were floods and mudslides, hundreds of people dead, unaccounted for. This is some video. I did a triple-double AI check. As far as we can tell, we've done all our homework. This appears to be real video. If you're missing this out on Apple or Spotify, if you're missing it, please, check it out on the video show here, rumble.com/Bongino. But this is not, this is really bad. You do not want to be involved in something like this with it. Look at this, yeah. You see that mud and water and all of that coming down. I mean, these people had no chance. So I'm sorry to start the show with a bunch of bad news today, but we do live, in the real world. It's not utopia. So say a prayer for them. God's listening. So getting back to what I warned you about, folks, the Democrats, as I told you, and it didn't take a lot of time, they are now freaking out. They're in full panic mode. Why are we covering the Democrats? Here's why. This is super important. You may say, Dan, we vote Republican. Who cares what they're doing? No, that is a big mistake. Jonah Goldberg wrote a piece a long time ago, regardless of your feelings about Jonah, some like him, some don't. But he wrote, I believe it was him, an interesting piece. I think it was in Town Hall. And it was about the penalties that will be enacted upon our party if we don't try to understand what the other side is thinking. I say that because the Democrats make no effort to ever understand what MAGA's about, why Black and Hispanic and union voters are moving over to President Trump and have moved over in elections. So they get blindsided by it every time. I'm begging you as a friend and an activist in the movement myself, I was a candidate, please, please, please do not repeat this mistake. The gist of the piece Goldberg wrote, which I find fascinating, is that when Democrats and Republicans share a consensus on an issue, in other words, like smoking's bad for your lungs, can cause cancer. It's scientific fact, okay? That smoking decreased in America because whether you were a Democrat or Republican didn't matter. Like if you saw your mom or your grandmother smoking, you were a 20-year-old or even a 15-year-old, be like, hey, Mom, I just heard that's going to cause cancer. I know because my mom smoked, God rest her soul, and I had to have this conversation with her. People didn't talk in partisan terms and they didn't ignore it. Someone you loved close to you would talk to you about an issue, and smoking rates declined rapidly. He compares it to the Democrats' war on our right to self-protection in the Second Amendment. How the Democrats don't make any attempt to try to understand why Americans concerned for their family's safety and their own would be interesting in owning, carrying, or having in the home a firearm. They made every time there's a school shooting out there and you own a gun and you're just an innocent person trying to protect your family, you're a murderer, you took part in it too, look at you savage animals. And therefore they keep losing on the issue. Smoking, everybody won because everybody talked to each other like human beings. Democrats iced themselves out on the Second Amendment, chose to call us murderers. What happened? They're constantly surprised that more states are moving in the constitutional carry direction. Do not repeat this mistake. Don't do it. Do not repeat this mistake either in our party, and we're not. We've been cleaning it up well, where you let cancerous ideologies, doomerism, hatred, identity politics, you cannot let that get a foothold because once that concrete dries, ladies and gentlemen, you need a pile driver and a sledgehammer to crack that thing up. I've seen it. I've been in this fight for 15 years, man. Many of you have been in it longer. I haven't been in it the longest, but I've been in it a long time, well over a decade. I've seen this stuff before. You got to squash it. We believe in liberty, freedom, economic growth, school choice, pro-life, the Second Amendment. We do not get into identity politics crap. We don't get into collective guilt crap, victim ideology, doomerism. That's not our thing. The Democrats waited too long, and now they are crashing out everywhere. First video of the day. Here's Hakeem Jeffries on CNN. He's asked a simple question by Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer is not a Republican. He's not a MAGA guy. He's not a Trump guy. Obviously, pretty fair, correct? He's just asked a simple question like, hey, man, does your big tent include people who are just insane, spouting crazy ideas, Hassan Piker and elsewhere? Are you guys going to take a stand? Jeffries just loses it by CNN standards. Because he knows they screwed up and waited too long. They let the concrete dry, and there's no sledgehammer that's going to break this thing up. Check this out.
The notion that people should be targeted because of their religious beliefs or ethnicity or race, whatever the case may be, that's fundamentally inconsistent with who we are in this country.
Yes, indeed. Hassan Piker's clout among Democrats, though, particularly some younger Democratic voters, seems to be growing. We saw, for example, his prominence in the Michigan Senate Democratic primary. So why not call him out by name in your statement if you feel so passionately about this issue?
I've just addressed Hassan Piker's comments as it relates to the Jewish community as forcefully as I can, and I will continue to do that.
Yes, but in your original statement, he was not addressed by name. That's why I was raising the question.
They don't know what to do. They let the concrete dry. Don't ever let this happen to your movement. Learn from them like they never learned from us. They don't want to learn who you are. The Democrat socialists are interested in doing one thing from you, and it's not learning from you. They're interested in imprisoning you, stealing your money, stealing away agency over your own life, education, healthcare. That's all they're interested in. They are not in any way interested in learning from you. Learn from them. You want to collapse a movement and have uncomfortable media moments like this, where even your own people, Wolf Blitzer's a Democrat, let's just be honest, okay? He's an activist. These aren't media people. Where your own people are calling you out, clean up your movement from the start. Do not let that concrete dry, ladies and gentlemen. It is a disaster. Now, I told you yesterday, I want to put this up there with kind of Dan Bongino's show, Axiomatic Truths. You know, we have all these things that, don't get dead. We kind of joke around. Any policy that helps you get dead quicker is a bad thing. You should fight against it. But we also try to describe politics in simple, kind of poignant terms so that we're not writing white papers about things and people who don't have, time to sit there and study, 80 hours a week of white papers. They work for a living. We try to make politics simple. One of the things I've always told you about politics is if you can't sum up what you're thinking in a soundbite or a snapshot, a photo or a quick soundbite, you're probably not going to get public opinion to change because not everybody has time. People work for a living building this country. They're not going to read your white paper on your specific idea about a fair tax. They've got to work for a living. Sum it up on a Wheaties box. Put the Wheaties box at the table, eat your Wheaties. There you go. It's also called an elevator speech. If you had the CEO of a company you're trying to pitch on a product and you had him for one floor, he gets on at 7, is getting off on 8, and you got 10 seconds, what are you going to tell him? You've got to sum things up quickly. I want to add this rule here to our political rules of engagement. The critical question the Democrats and some Republicans need to ask themselves is if you see it, will it change your mind? I brought this up yesterday. I got a lot of great feedback on it. And I want you to think of it very simply in terms of the pro-life advocates that go out on college campuses and elsewhere and just, again, show what an abortion looks like. When people see it, they freak out. That's why the Democrats go, they violently attack these people. They shoot double-leg takedowns on them. They're ripping up their... Why are you ripping up the side? If you have no problem with abortion, you should be like, yeah, that's no big deal. That torn up baby, no big deal. If you see it, will it change your mind? The answer is, if you see the results of an abortion, you will likely change your mind. That's why Democrats hate it. This is a great job by Caroline Downey. She goes on CNN, and she's on there last night talking about exactly this, how Hakeem Jeffries and others, all they want to do is hide what the real Democrat agenda is. I've got Mike Davis today as a guest, one of my favorite guests, Article 3 Project, coming up later. We're going to dig into this, how the Democrat agenda, they want to hide it. They'll quietly talk about it amongst themselves and it leaks out on Twitter. And then when they go on CNN with Wolf Blitzer, they run away from this stuff. Because they know if people see it, it will change their mind. Packing the Supreme Court, confiscatory taxes, sending your kid to crappy public schools with no school choice, stealing your health care plan and putting you on government health care. They know if you see it, it will change your mind. Here's Caroline Downey on CNN, like, I don't understand. Why are they hiding stuff? Why don't they just tell you? The answer is because if you see it, it'll change your mind. Check this out.
You'd be better off just simply attacking him, if you're going to attack him, on the policies, on the economic incompatibility of what he's putting on the table with what people in Michigan want, rather than saying, oh, he's going to change our culture. What does that even mean?
Well, 2 points. That network has more independent viewers than you think, and those clips are going to circulate on social media. And it was quite clarifying, I think, to a lot of people, that he could not give simple answers to questions about the culture war. He conflated circumcision with sex changes for children. So now it's good to know that he's on the 20% of an 80-20 issue nationally. But if you want to talk economics, fine, let's talk economics, which that network has talked about extensively as well. His biggest economic goal is Medicare for all, also known as single-payer health care, also known as nationalizing health care. He doesn't want to talk about, Al-Sayed, about how that would require taxing the middle class. That seems to defeat the whole championing of the working class mantra, don't you think? He doesn't talk about how that would kick off many millions of Americans off their private or employer-sponsored health care, and the majority of Americans, polling says, like their health care. So why doesn't he want to address that?
He wasn't asked about it.
He wasn't asked about it. Jesse Waters just asked him the other day, this Medicare for all plan, you want to go into like costs? You want to talk about it? They don't want to talk about it. Why don't they want to talk about it? I'm going to say it for the 10th time during the show. Because if you see it, it'll change your mind. How many people out there in the chat, I'm just curious, how many people out there in the chat work for a union that during the bargaining process got you a really good health care plan, but you probably had to forfeit, so maybe you wanted a 5% raise and you settled for 2 or 3 in exchange for a really solid health care plan? How many people, again, like I'm a Republican, I'm not an anti-union guy. My brother's in a union, my father was in a union growing up. I'm not an anti-union guy at all. I don't want you to be forced to be in a union, but I'm not anti-union at all. I think, workers should be able to bargain for their rights. Oh, good. Okay, a lot. My husband, a bunch of people, yes, me. You bargain for this. Do you understand? I know you in the chat get it, but if you're listening, you're hearing us on the radio for the first time, you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Rumble, wherever you pick up the show, and you're like, who's this Dan Bongino guy? I'm telling you maybe for the first time that if the Democrats' plan, Al-Sayed, Bernie Sanders, Liz Warren, and others, if the Democrats' plan is enacted and they bust up the filibuster and have a majority, they will enact this Medicare for all plan, which will cancel your private insurance. Just read Bernie Sanders' bill. Put it in AI like we did yesterday. Will my private insurance plan be canceled? Yes. If you see it, will it change your mind? That's why Caroline Downey accurately said, why isn't he talking about this? Because he knows if he tells you what he stands for, that you're going to electorally give him the Heisman. And I don't mean the trophy. That's why we don't have this problem. I'm going to put out, before we get Mike Davis coming on, I'm going to put out just 5 or 6 things that just happened this week in the Trump administration that actually happened. In other words, they're in the past. They're in the now and the past. We don't have to talk about the future, just enough. Just happened in this past week alone. We don't have to run from them. We're not hiding. We want you to see it. Because we want to change your mind. Not because we don't want you to see it so you don't change your mind. That's the Democrats' approach. I'm going to talk about something next that, listen, I know is going to cause a bit of a revolt out there, not amongst the Bongino army, but I have not addressed this. I was waiting for a moment that would make more sense in terms of the larger picture where we are as the country. I want to do a quick segment on this Lindsay Clancy case and how the rules of if you see it, will it change your mind, apply to the psychology of some of the people defending this woman. It involves a Spencer Pratt video. Spencer Pratt, yes. Stay tuned because it'll make perfect sense. When you see these things like I did as a street cop and a federal agent, when you see bodies in the street, forgive the language, but people's brains blown out in bodegas, and you see it, you will never, ever be a BLM defund the policer again. If you see it, will it change your mind? Quick break. I'm going to show you what I mean. And listen, I'm just telling you up front, you need to hear this because this is a symptom of this just infection taking over the country right now, where people just, NPCs just fall for like the current thing. We're not having it. We're not doing it on this show. Quick break. You'll see what I mean. Hey, for a long time now, I've been telling you about Byrna because I believe in effective self-defense. Sometimes that doesn't require lethal force. They sent me one, Byrna, BYRNA. I have a couple of them actually. I use it. I trust it. Many Byrna owners are listening right now. It's time to upgrade. Byrna just rolled out a new offer I think you'll love. If you own a Byrna BYRNA SD, now is the perfect time to upgrade. With Byrna's new trade-up program, you can trade in your SD and get a $150 credit towards a new Byrna CL. It's fantastic, or a CL XL. It's simple. Go to byrna.com/trade-up. Order a prepaid return kit for $19.99. Send your SD back to Byrna. Within 1 to 3 days, you'll receive a $150 coupon code to put towards your upgrade. The new CL and CL XL offer more power, higher muzzle velocity, lighter weight, and more magazine options. It's a fantastic option for those of you interested in self-defense for yourself and your family. Been a big supporter of Byrna for a long time, BYRNA. So if you've been thinking about upgrading, this is your chance. Go to Byrna.com/trade-up to get started, BYRNA.com/trade-up, and take your safety to the next level. Byrna.com/trade-up. Must be 18 or older. Purchase and shipping restrictions vary by state and municipality. Go to Byrna.com to check availability at your location. Check out Byrna. Worth your time. Thank you, Byrna. Okay. I want to show you a tragic example of, to call it tragic seems like an understatement. The Lindsay Clancy case about the murder of these children. Lindsay Clancy, the husband came home and found it is just, to listen to the story is horrific. However, you see a group of people out there who have not you, but a group of people out there who have seemingly divorced their concerns for the kids in terms of making the woman, Lindsay Clancy, out in this case, who killed these 3 kids, making her out to be the victim. It's a stunning turn of events. And I'm just, even by my skin is thick to this stuff. I've been around crime, disorder, and law enforcement my whole life. I've seen the worst of the worst. The briefings we get in the FBI about, cases involving kids and everything were just horrendous. They're hard to take. Sometimes it pollutes your brain and you got to go in there and almost, you just have to learn to digest all this stuff and not let it destroy your brain. Spencer Pratt did a video about this yesterday. It's an amazing video. I encourage you to watch the whole thing, but this is about a minute 20 of it, where when you hear the details of this case, does it change your mind? Because I can tell you right now, a lot of people defending this woman, if you see it, this should change your mind. Here he is, introducing you to the facts of this case. Again, I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. Check this out.
The internet was a mistake. We have officially broken bad. Recently, a married mother of 3 young children was grappling with postpartum psychosis. Not just depression, but psychosis. She was committed to a psych ward for a brief stay, but she lied her way out of it and made her way back home. When her husband left the house to go get food, she took her 3 young babies into the basement, lined them up, and one by one, wrapped an exercise band around their neck and strangled them to death. Now, strangulation is very difficult, even with a toddler. It takes a lot of force and a lot of time. It's a very intimate way to kill somebody, which is probably why she turned the kids face down as she did it. She didn't have to watch the life drain out of their panicked eyes as she choked them out. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to choke a toddler to death, so the third child had to stand there and watch their siblings die for about 10 minutes before it was their turn. After Mama had finished killing all of her kids, she promptly went upstairs, slashed her own wrist, jumped out the second floor window to off herself. Well, the snow outside cushioned her fall, the cold slowed her vitals, so she merely fractured her spine, paralyzing her, but she ultimately survived.
Yeah, I'm reading you guys in the chat. I'm sorry to have to play that for you too. But we're grown adults managing, living in, and citizens of the greatest country on earth. And these things do happen. These tragedies do occur. It's an unimaginable tragedy. I mean, look, I'm getting goosebumps here talking about this because I think all of us with children, you in the chat included, not see this through a different lens. If you don't have children, you can certainly process the tragedy here. But when you have children, it's just different. You hear about these things, and the first thing you think of is your kids. You get the, Papa Bear, Mama Bear impulse. Like, you just can't imagine what kind of evil would take to do that to your own kid, to any kid, not even your own, but your own children. I just want to thank Spencer Pratt again for not just losing and disappear. Hey, man, I ran for office. Didn't work out. I didn't disappear. I was like, well, what's next? How do we fix the country? Maybe being a politician wasn't it. Maybe talking about it. Well, I don't know. Maybe going back and serving in the FBI. Like, I'm always looking at new things. I really applaud him for not running away from the political scene and using his massive microphone and megaphone, which he earned with a great campaign for LA mayor, to highlight how the internet is warping people's minds. Folks, when you hear that, does it change your mind? I saw this clip yesterday that I don't know what viral, or I use different viral, nuclear, like is nuclear above fire? It doesn't even matter, but this was all over X and TikTok and elsewhere yesterday. There was a woman on this news channel debating this guy about this Lindsay Clancy case. And I just want you to see what happens again when you see and hear what happened like that. And people describe what happened. This is typically the reaction you get from people. And this is why I'm encouraging you, whether it's this case, any other case, or any issue, you have to ask yourself a question. Am I on the right side of this? If I see it and I need to have a meltdown, am I on the right side of it, supporting the it I see that caused the meltdown? If you haven't seen this clip, this is what happens when you're confronted with an awful reality you support. Check this out.
These are man-hating women that are standing outside. This is what it's about. They think the husband did it. They're crazy. They've lost their mind.
Do you know why
they're waving for a murderer?
Do you know why the woman is in a wheelchair? Did you even notice that she's in a wheelchair?
Couldn't care less. She's a murderer.
Because she jumped out the window after this happened.
So she should have. I'd have pushed her. They say that Lindsay was in psychosis. I think these women are suffering from psychosis. They've been watching too many true crime Netflix dramas. This was an incredibly privileged woman, incredibly wealthy. She had a nanny, and she's still complaining that she needed help. She could not have got more help from the system that she already have received. This is a murderer who strangled her children one by one. One of the boys ran away, and she chased him down and killed him.
Laurie Watkins.
What you just said was absolutely disgusting.
Thank you.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you.
And you can hear that he's not. Okay?
Why? Because it's true.
You clearly don't care, so pipe down.
I don't care. And by the way, men watching this, if you have a woman sat next to you on the sofa who is defending this murderer, you got to think deeply about this. I've seen weddings.
So we need to have some empathy.
Talk to your women and find out what are they thinking. They're defending this woman. It's
I don't think anybody's defending what she did, but you can have empathy for what she went through and how she.
I know many women that this has happened to. No, they did not kill their children, but they also, what you failed to mention.
They should be commended because they did.
I've had it with you.
Oh my God, they should be commended. They didn't kill their
misogyny.
children. She's a murderer. These women are cheering.
I'm done.
Notice how she states the obvious and doesn't realize she stated the obvious against her own case. What you just said was absolutely disgusting. Yes, all he did was describe what happened in this murder. That's all. Yeah, it is disgusting. Folks, again, I'm going to do you a favor like I tried to do the Democrats a favor to rescue the country from Islamo-fanatics and communists. I'm going to do you a favor right now before you let the concrete settle. If you are dating, thinking about dating, what are those dating websites that you swipe on or stuff? If you're on any of those and they have a sign in there or a photo, I support Lindsay, I love Lindsay, donate to Lindsay. Or ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, even if it is your spouse, think and deliberate long and hard about where you are right now. Folks, listen, I've talked about this before on the air, and I'm not shy about it. It's not some victim thing or boo-hoo thing. Depression it runs in my family. It's a long story I'll save for another time. Generationally. And I'm not talking about depression like upset. I'm talking about major depressive disorder, like a DSM diagnosable disorder. The difference between depression and just being upset about something is depression, this black cloud that follows you everywhere, is typically divorced from any real world event. You know, you lose a job, people feel bad. That's not DSM diagnosable depression. It can turn into it. An environmental stressor can trigger it, but you're just depressed and feel bad all the time regardless. You could have just gotten a promotion at work, the greatest job of your life, and you're still depressed. For those of you who've suffered through this and have that gene or combination of gene and environmental stressors, it's a horrible thing. It is not an excuse to go out and murder people. There's no scenario by which that's acceptable. None. Word of caution. Whatever it is, the swipe left or I don't know how the hell that would. Swipe past any sign, I support Lynn. No. That is you want to talk about a red flag? That's not even like a red, that's like a black flag. No. That's disgusting what you just said. Gee, he just described what happened. Yes, it's disgusting. Apparently you agree with him. Folks, there's a larger picture I've been painting for you during the show. Again, back to some of my critical questions you need to ask friends and neighbors going forward. If you see it, will it change your mind? And why does it change your mind? Why are you bothered by signs that show what an abortion looks like? Why are you bothered? A lot of red flags in the chat now. Why are you bothered by losing your health care plan if you support Democrats who want to take your health care? If you see it, will it change your mind? As we asked yesterday, does the policy, the politics, the party you're supporting, do they survive first contact with reality? The answer for the modern Democrat Party is no, they do not. First contact with reality always ends poorly for the Democrats. We don't need to do that. We don't need to hide. Quite the opposite for this new MAGA-led Republican Party. This is just things that happened this week. We're showing it to you. We're not hiding. We're like, here it is. Why? Because we're proud of it. We're not embarrassed like this lady. That was disgusting. Why? He just said what happened. We're not embarrassed by it. Here's what happened just this week. The White House messaging, President Trump's White House, their messaging on why you should vote for Republicans over Democrats. I've always told you, Republicans are not the solution to all your problems. The problem is Democrats are the cause of all your problems. That's why they hide it. The White House messaging is clear. I'm getting exhausted by Republicans leaking to liberal outlets anonymously, not leaking, but just speaking, just put your name on it. They don't want to do it because they don't want to get laughed at. We got no message for the midterms. No, you have no message for the midterms. The White House is trying to help you. Put up their post on X. The White House, at White House. It's a verified account. Crushing drug cartels, securing our borders, arresting drug traffickers. These all result in a safer country. The Trump administration has piloted a historic decrease in fentanyl deaths, saving American lives. This is another one. I made the message easy for you. Thank you. 22% drop in fentanyl deaths. Total drug overdose deaths. I know you get doomers. Nobody cares. Parents care. They don't want their kids to die because they took what they thought was a Xanax that turned out to be fentanyl and they didn't have a Narcan around. Don't tell me people don't care. You don't care because you're a doomer. You know what? Throw up that AF Post one. I know I was going to put it up a little later. But here's another one. Notice no one in the Republican Party who knows what they're talking about, including the White House, is running from this at all. We're advertising it. Here it is. We're not trying to hide it, sweep it under the rug. At AF Post, Trump has effectively decimated the drug trade, massively reducing drug overdose deaths, chiefly reducing fentanyl overdoses by 54% from its peak prior to his inauguration. Prior to Trump's inauguration, overdoses seemed poised to continue rising. Ladies and gentlemen, this alone would be a campaign platform I would run on. If I was in a high crime area in the Republican Party that had some high crime area in my district, I would put this on every bumper sticker. I support President Trump's destruction of the drug trade. It's right here. He's giving you a message. What are you whining about? We're showing it. We're not hiding anything. You're hiding it. Because you're just intellectually lazy. And I hate this Republican on Republican crap. And by the way, I'm doing my best now to clean a lot of this stuff up and just get a unified party going forward. A lot of time, I agree with you, is being wasted on all this stuff. We've got a real fight with these socialist nutbags. You got kids, real kids, not Cabbage Patch dolls. They go out there, they think they're taking a Percocet they got on some social media platform. They take a fentanyl, the kid's dead. I promise you, people care. The Trump administration did things about this. You have any idea how many meetings we had at the FBI with our leadership team in China and elsewhere about getting some of these precursor drugs listed so we could interdict them more easily? This was a President Trump administration thing. I know you don't want to give him credit for anything. I don't care. I was there. It happened. Here's another one, a list of things that happened just this week. At Christian Hines, it's just a series of generational wins after another. Generational wins. But here's the thing. This was just this week. Nothing's happening. Trump confirms ICE proceedings against Ilhan Omar over alleged fraud. The Supreme Court allows Trump's mail-in ballot restrictions to go forward. The Trump admin to revoke the visas of up to 200,000 asylum seekers. Ninth Circuit says district courts can't block ICE operations over past harms. ICE arrested 1,328 illegals in Virginia and Maryland in just 14 days. I thought nothing was happening. I thought nothing was happening. Do you look for what's happening? I mean, it's kind of your job to look, right? Not you and the listening audience. If you're a politician running for office under our Republican brand, our umbrella, you're not running under your own brand, Joey Bag of Donuts Party, the Whigs. You're running under the Republican brand. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It's your job to know what's happening. It's your freaking job. Your job is to know what's happening. Are you, I mean, seriously, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Are you stupid? Do you not go into office every day and say, hey, man, I'm running for re-election. Maybe I should look at some things our party did? You're running with the party, man. Here's another one. All the doomerism over the strait. Again, I can't believe it. President Trump, there's no plan ever. There's no plan. Has everything gone swimmingly in Iran? No, war is unpredictable. President Trump on True Social. You notice anytime good news comes out, they all ignore it? I've been informed by the U.S. Navy that all mines have been removed or detonated from the international waters in the Strait. Iran's been notified any ship or boat placing new mines will be immediately and systematically destroyed. Space Force watching every inch of the Strait. We're watching Pickaxe Mountain as well. They already destroyed 3 other nuclear sites. Their zero tolerance policy on mine placement in full force and effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I am not mad at you from covering things when they don't go bad at all. Why would I be? It's good to cover reality in the real world and keep everybody fresh and frosty. That's a good thing. But are we going to cover some of the good news too? There's a site, put this up, the Expos, Tanker Tracker that tracks tankertrackers.com. They have a Twitter account too, at Tanker Trackers, plural. They note a busy day in the Gulf of Oman where there were at least 15 sets of STS transfers taking place. We count 25 million barrels of crude oil, plus some refined products. The oil originates from almost every country in the region, minus Iran. The Gulf of Oman and the Strait, the side there. This is, I mean, are we interested in the good news, or are Republicans going to continue to run for office? They even got some handy photos for you. We got nothing to talk about. We got no, you have nothing to talk about because you're not doing your homework. By the way, how many people, be honest, I'm asking you to be honest. This may not, I'm sorry, but I'm asking you all to be honest. How many people fell for the, we're not deporting anyone anymore, the Trump administration's not interested in mass deportation? How many people fell for that? It's okay. It's hard on, I told you, there's a lot of foreign money going into dissuading you from voting in the midterms. And I saw the op a couple of weeks ago. Come on, tell me, not who said that? Bourbon, taste-offs, not me. Good, not me either. Because I applied the Bongino rule. I said, well, I'm just going to wait for the numbers to come out about deportations because I'm not interested in some random anonymous account, probably started in Pakistan or somewhere else, or Lebanon, that says, don't show up and vote. Donald Trump's not deporting people. Donald Trump's not deporting people. Does that sound sane? Look at this guy. Nice. Justin's like, this is the Associated Press. Big fans of Donald Trump. Of course, you sense the dripping sarcasm from my fangs. The Associated Press hates Donald Trump. You think they want to give him a victory? Here's a headline. If you just waited, you would see that quote. Look at the date, by the way. Dan, this is from last year or something? No, it's August 25th, 2026. I think that was yesterday. ICE arrests jumped to nearly 50,000 in July, the highest monthly total of Trump's second term. Folks, I saw it. This happened to us. I'm just trying to help you. I promise. I promise you on every shred of integrity in my sometimes broken soul here. I warned you when I came out 6 months ago that there is a very organized, sophisticated effort to get you to believe things that aren't true so that you'll get upset about the Trump administration. And there's two reasons. They want you to lose in the midterms so they can say, see, we told you so, Trump sucks. And then their 2028 candidate, who's going to be completely antithetical to any Republican values at all, is going to come out and go, you see what happens? Those 4 years under President Trump were trash. They're waiting for him to exit the political scene so they can do nothing but relentlessly attack him. They're already turning on Vice President Vance now. Follow my X feed this morning. You'll see what I mean. Everything I told you was going to happen is happening. That was an op. It was an op. President Trump and Stephen Miller don't care about deportations. Are you insane? Stephen Miller. Not only are deportations, ICE arrests through the roof, they're hitting records. Again, I'm really sorry if you fell for it. I tried to help you. I'm not mad at you. It's hard. You go on X all day, sometimes you just don't know. But if something sounds crazy, and by the way, I'm not telling you every piece of negative information about the administration is fake. That's not what I'm saying at all. So don't put words in my mouth. I'm simply telling you if something sounds crazy. Tom Homan, Steve Miller, they're not interested in deportations anymore. President Trump, if that sounds crazy, correct? Then it probably is. I saw this. And Bongino's the deep state. Yeah, yes, you're correct. You got me there, guys. Do you know how dumb that sounds? The show continues to expand. I think you see nobody bought that. It's just stupid. You just have to wait. Again, folks, we don't have to hide from our record. One thing I'm proud of as a conservative, as a supporter of the administration and the incredible landmarks we've reached after just a year and a half, is we don't have to hide this stuff at all. We don't have to hide it. We want you to see it because we know it will change your mind in our direction. The Democrats have taken the exact opposite approach. Run on peace, love, and happiness. I've been watching, I don't want to get off track here, but do any of you guys watch documentaries out there? I'm sure a lot of you do, but I'm obsessed with documentary. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like a wonky nerd. I just am. I don't like to waste time. You know, time is your most valuable asset. And if you can learn a little something every day, I'm fascinated by human psychology. So I'm looking around the streaming outlets the other day, and I see the 3-part episode on Charlie Manson. You remember the murders, the Charlie Manson murders? Some of you are younger. You probably heard of the name, but you don't know the details of it. It is one of the most fascinating documentaries I've ever seen because I'm really obsessed with how this guy, Charlie Manson, an insane sociopath, was able to convince like high school cheerleaders who had left to become part of the Manson family to go out and commit the most personal type of murder possible. And I mean that in a qualitatively evil way. Not just to shoot people, but to take a buck knife and stab them hundreds of times. Do you know how evil you have to be to do that? To take a buck knife and over and over. Do you have any idea the type of demons that have to possess your soul? So I clicked on, I'm almost done. I got like 20 minutes left in episode 3. And something hit me last night watching this episode. I'm like, I'm fascinated by how he did this. The ranch they were at, that he took all these young females and a couple of guys, by the way, and kept them there and started talking about the race war and the Beatles' White Album and the pigs and how you were going to be imprisoned by Black America in a race war. The reason these young ladies bought it so much to the point they went out and murdered innocent people violently, not that murder's any better, violently murdered innocent people. One of the key reasons that keeps coming up in the show was he isolated them. You see how when you recommend policies like communism that led to the extermination of not just a few innocent people, but hundreds of millions, how you can get people who are cheerleaders or anything else to believe insane ideas? You just isolate them from the truth. You keep them in little pockets, no different than the ranch Charlie Manson kept his people on. It may not be a physical ranch, but it's an intellectual one. To gaslight people, you have to lie like Charlie did. Charlie was a con man, Charlie Manson. You have to lie often. Oh, he lied often every day. You have to lie confidently. You hear these people who are Manson family members, these ladies in the documentary saying he was so convincing. But the one part that continues to come up, the fourth component of gaslighting, is he isolated them from their families and everyone else so they could never see the truth. It is no different than the Democrats isolating you from the truth now. They don't want you to see what they're going to do because they want to keep you on that intellectual ranch where you can never see the devastation that's about to happen. I forget what it's called. It's like the Untold Charlie Manson, the Untold Story. I should know, but it just kind of popped into my head. Just listen for that part all the time. It comes up throughout every hour of this 3-part series. How when you isolate people from the truth and they never see reality, ladies and gentlemen, you can get them to believe and do almost anything. Almost anything. And then you see them get back to reality, these women, and they're almost completely normal, as if they hadn't taken part in a conspiracy to murder innocent people with buck knives. The eye-opening was incredible. Folks, we don't need to hide from our ideas and hide from people. It's the left that's constantly lying. Anyone see that, by the way? A good analogy, Dan, with Charlie Manson, Lynn and Jeff. Lynn and Jeff, we love Lynn and Jeff. I feel like you're part of my family. I never met Lynn or Jeff, but I feel like I know you guys already. It is a good analogy because it's true. We don't have to isolate people from anything. We talk openly about just what happened this week because we don't need to isolate you from reality because I don't want you to do bad things. Like go out and commit ideological murder out there and recommend things that are going to get people killed. I want you to do what's best for you and your family. That's why we always say on the show, by the way, this is edutainment, educational entertainment, hat tip BDP. We always say, do your own homework. Don't believe anyone. Don't fact check us on the show. If we're wrong, send us over the data. That's why we put clips like this out there that are not from yesterday, not from a decade ago, but from years ago because they're still instructive today. You've got a group of people running as socialists, isolating you from the truth, telling you that the key to prosperity in the future is the government taking control of the entire economy, taking your money, taking your kids, taking your health care, and taking your schooling. They're saying that. They hate free enterprise. They hate free markets. They hate the fact that you can own a home by yourself and the government isn't involved. Milton Friedman's been explaining this to years for people. This is one of the best 1 minute, 20-second clips you're ever going to see. If you haven't seen it, hat tip Rob Snyder on X. He had this out on his X account this morning. That's why I saw it. We played this before in the show. But there's this young kid, again, who's been isolated from the truth, gets up and asks Freeman a question. Well, there's poor people out there, so clearly free enterprise has failed, as if there were never poor people before there were free enterprise either. Governments don't fail. People in government fail. That's why we want to restrict people's power over our lives, because people will always let you down unless you contain their power to ruin your life too. You want an argument for free enterprise? Even the poorest people have never been wealthier than under a free enterprise system. Check this out.
My question is regarding how free are the poor, how free are the unemployed, and how free are those people who are disadvantaged? Right. And so in reference to that, what is government's role?
Sure. First of all, I'm glad to see one vote for the poor. First of all, the government doesn't have any responsibility. People have responsibility. This building doesn't have responsibility. You and I have responsibility. People have responsibility. Second, the question is, how can we as people exercise our responsibility toward our fellow man most effectively? That's the problem. So far as poverty is concerned, there has never in history been a more effective machine for eliminating poverty than the free enterprise system and the free market. The period in which you had the greatest improvement in the lot of the ordinary man was a period of the 19th and early 20th century. Those of us in this room are the heirs of that. We benefited from the way in which our parents and our grandparents were able to come here. And by virtue of the freedom that was offered to them, were able to make a better life for themselves and them and us. But next, if you look at the real problems of poverty and denial of freedom to people in this country, almost every single one of them is a result of government action and would be eliminated if you eliminated the bad government failures. Let me be precise and specific. Why do we have so high an unemployment rate among black teenagers? It's a disgrace and a scandal. Why do we have so high an unemployment rate? First of all, because we give them lousy schooling through governmental schools, which make them unqualified to hold decent jobs. And second of all, we require employers to discriminate against them by not hiring them unless their productivity is enough to justify a minimum wage.
You see how when you exist in this college environment, folks, this video is decades old. Decades. It looks like it's from the 60s or 70s. It doesn't matter. It's decades old. The point of this is young college impressionable kids who've been isolated from the truth on a college campus teaching cult-like ideas like communism is wonderful, who never see the real world, whose ideas never face first contact because they're not in contact with the real world. They're in contact with the college world. You go to the college mess hall, you eat your food, your professor tells you communism's wonderful, you got a beautiful new gym facility, you don't actually have to do any work other than schoolwork, no one's asked you to clean the toilet bowls. Then you go out in the real world with first contact and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, all of a sudden these communes, they don't look so great. We don't have that problem. All you have to do is ask yourself, how is it that one of the poorest states in the Union, Mississippi is one of the poorest states in the Union. And I use that term relative because Mississippi's exploded. Their school choice program is amazing. I'm not knocking them. It's just they've had some hurdles through the years. One of the poorest states in the Union, the average citizen there's average usable income every year is greater than like the average, Western European who all these people want to be. That's the poorest state in the Union. I always kind of laugh mockingly about that poll. They asked a bunch of, UK citizens, where's the United Kingdom? The average wealth of a UK citizen. Where is it compared to states in the United States? And the answers were like overwhelmingly California, New York, UK. That's not it. The UK was like 48 or something like that. You live in the wealthiest country on earth because they practice free enterprise. This is not hard. These people are totally isolated from reality. That's why they think like they do. All I'm asking you, man, and I got Mike Davis coming up in a few minutes. Don't miss this interview. Mike always cuts through the noise and gets to the signal. I played for you a while back an interview Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. You know Mr. Wonderful? You've probably seen him. He had done this interview where he was talking about working with, I think it was Steve Jobs, I'm pretty sure. And he was saying that the reason he thought Steve Jobs was so effective is that Steve Jobs has the ability to cut through noise and get to signal. That a lot of what you see out there is noise meant to confuse you, or just will confuse you from its very existence, and that really good managers and leaders cut right through that. They get to the truth. They're not isolated. They seek inputs. They get right to the signal. They don't waste time on the noise. The Democrats are experts at polluting the political environment with noise. What this show's aim has been from the beginning until now, and now with the launch of the morning radio show, nationwide, the afternoon radio show, the podcast, the addition of Sean, Vince, and Haley, has always been to get straight to signal. I say that because people write things, especially in editorial, even on our side and our outlets, people will write things that are assumed to be fact just because you see them in print. I'm going to do this in reverse first, because one of the arguments that drives me absolutely bananas by these socialists is, listen, we've got this massive $40 trillion national debt that's causing us real problems right now with interest payments because we just don't tax people enough. It's a stupid noise-based argument that has no single signal at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we taxed the snot out of the United States citizenry. And the wealthiest people in the United States pay the overwhelming majority of taxes. The top 1% pays 40%, the top 10% pays 70%. That's just a fact. That's the signal. So I saw this piece in the Journal, hold on it for a second, by William Galston. And I like his word. I'm not knocking him personally. It's not a personal thing. But he says something in his piece that, again, is just accepted as fact amongst the Democrats, that we have a national debt problem because we just need to raise more taxes, and tax hikes will do it. So I asked a simple question. I went to Grok, and I said, Grok, adjust for inflation, and tell me how many years the U.S. government's total tax revenue has gone down from the year before. Because if you're making an argument that we have a national debt and annual deficit problem because tax revenue keeps going down, then how many years did this happen from the year before? Well, the answer is only in 15 years in the last 50. And why is it gone? There it is right there. Adjusted for inflation. Why have they gone down? Tax revenue? Typically because of a recession. Tax revenue has gone up 35 out of the last 50 years. So your argument that tax revenue is the problem, not spending, is mathematically inaccurate. It is nothing more than isolating from the truth. It is nothing more than noise, not signal. I say it because, again, I read this guy's work. He's definitely not a MAGA guy, but that's fine. I enjoy reading the other side because, as I said to you in the beginning of the show, I want to see what the other side is thinking. But I just don't know why they keep saying this. Here's a piece I read that, folks, really annoyed the hell out of me. America's spiraling debt crisis by William Galston. He notes after 4 years of budget surpluses, okay, that's not true in 2000. There was no budget surplus. There was no budget surplus. I can prove this to you. Keep this up, please, easily, William Galston and others. If there was a budget surplus for 4 straight years from 2001 to 2005, 2006, and on, right? There was any budget surplus. How come the national debt went up every year? If I was running a surplus, how does my debt go up? That's just not true. It's an accounting gimmick. You know, the CBO released a 10-year forecast projecting that the national debt would be eliminated by 2009. It didn't happen. Here's the line. Combined with slower than expected economic growth, the Bush tax cuts reduced income tax receipts from a projected $1.8 trillion in 2011 to $1.2 trillion. There we go. Blaming the Bush tax cuts just like they blame the Reagan tax cuts. Now, I've just showed you that that's not true, that 35 out of 50 years tax revenue has gone up an overwhelming majority of the time. And when it goes down, it's typically not tax policy, it's a recession. So then I thought, maybe I'll pull up this. So we used to use this article all the time. Here's an old school article from Don Dwyer from 10 years ago in the Washington Times. Is that true? The Bush tax cuts cost the government money? No, it's not true. The real jolt for tax cutting opponents was that the 2003 Bush tax cuts generated a massive increase in federal tax receipts from 2004 to 2007. Notice he leaves these years out. Federal tax revenues increased by $785 billion, the largest four-year increase in American history. Folks, it's all noise, man. Learn to get to the signal. You want to solve the problem of our $40 trillion debts and our $1 trillion annual deficits? Higher taxes are not the solution because the evidence and the signal says otherwise. You'll generate more tax revenue by cost-effective and growth-inducing tax cuts. The evidence is everywhere. You can look it up, you know. There's a whole big scandal right now about Stanley Druckenmiller, wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that he says he used AI for. He's like, yeah, I used AI. I don't know what's the problem. I don't care if you use AI or not, but you can actually use AI to think for you if you don't want to think for yourself. That's just not true. It's just all noise. All right, I had a lot more, but I'm in a mood today. Sorry. Of course, we pick our comment of the day every day. Josh just popped out of the studio. He got a fresh haircut going on here. He's like, we got a lot of good entries today for the comment of the day. It's our 1776 Club. Once a week, we give out $1,776 to a listener of the show or a viewer of the show, either one, because we really want you. Well, you'd be a viewer because you'd be in the Rumble chat. If you want to see the official rules, Bongino.com/1776. Josh seemed very excited about our comment of the day today. Our comment of the day is... Joe, there's a Joey Bag of Donuts. I think I've seen you in the chat before. Joey Bag of Donuts. Everyone calm down. I'm here. You should be, because we almost indicted Joey Bag of Donuts for a federal crime. So he is in the chat. He is accounted for. He is A-OK. Thank you, Joey_bag_A_donuts. You are the comment of the day today. If it's your comment, email us in the address on the screen. Good job. All right, quick break. I'm going to get to one of your favorite guests, the great Mike Davis. We do not have this guy on enough. He's fantastic. We're going to get a thorough explanation of this President Trump-led effort to secure free and fair elections going forward. Hey, we're still a couple months out, but the midterms are fast approaching. And make no mistake, if the House flips, it's a big deal for our economy. That uncertainty is one of the reasons I'm diversified with gold from Birch Gold Group, and I'm not the only one. In the 3 months leading up to the 2024 presidential election, the spot price of gold jumped over 12%. Why? Many investors consider it a hedge against uncertainty. If you don't own gold, I would suggest talking with Birch Gold, B-I-R-C-H. They'll discuss your goals, explain how precious metals can fit into your savings. They can even help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold for no additional money out of pocket. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, Birch Gold can help you too. Text my name, Dan, to the number 989898. Get a free info kit and get some solid information. The midterms will be here before you know it. So text Dan to 989898. Message and data rates may apply. Welcoming back to the show. I say back because he was a regular guest on our radio show, and just I know all the supporters and viewers and listeners love him. Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. Mike, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Welcome back.
It's good to be back. And let me just extend a note of really sincere and deep gratitude. You know, when we were at the FBI, Cash and I Cash obviously still being there, it was really nice having someone on the outside who could explain what was happening and why some things could happen right away and why they didn't. It was nice to have a sane voice. Again, we did not coordinate messaging or anything like that. It was just nice to hear someone say, hey, here's why this stuff happened. So we really appreciate that. Now you're seeing some of the results of that. I want to get to this first. Again, you have a really unique ability to explain complex legal issues to people. The voting by mail Supreme Court decision that worked out for President Trump, but it's not the end of the line about these changes President Trump wants to make to the voting by mail system through the post office. Can you explain what happened and what it looks like, the legal path ahead to clean up the system?
President Trump issued an executive order ordering his Attorney General, his Secretary of Homeland Security, and his Postmaster General to work together to come up with a plan to combat voter fraud through our postal service. Fraud through mail is mail fraud, which is a federal crime, as you know, Dan, from your time at the FBI. And so President Trump did this. Of course, Democrats don't like that because Democrats rely on non-citizens as their new core constituency to illegally rig and vote in our elections. And so 23 Democrat governors, along with the Democrat mayor of D.C., sued in Boston. They knew that would be a favorable left-wing district for them. And this left-wing crazy Biden judge up there issued this injunction on the president of the United States, telling the president that he can't even have his executive branch officials come up with a plan, not act on the plan, not do anything that affects the states, just come up with the plan. And so the First Circuit, filled with other left-wing activists, the appeals court affirmed this whack job Obama judge in Boston. It got sent up to the Supreme Court on the emergency docket because it's an injunction. It's not a case on the merits. So it would go up to the emergency docket. And it's important here because you have an injunction on the president of the United States where he can't have his cabinet officials and others come up with a plan. Pretty obviously illegal. So the Supreme Court said the same. It was 6-3 because the three Democrat women on the Supreme Court are also whack jobs. It should have been 9-0. And the Supreme Court simply said these 23 governors and the D.C. mayor, all these Democrat politicians, do not have standing to sue the president here. And the reason they don't have standing is because they aren't injured. They're not injured plaintiffs. And under Article 3 of the Constitution, in order to sue in federal court, you have to have Article 3 standing. You have to be injured, injury in fact, right? Not hypothetical injury, not potential injury, not, possible injury. It has to be injury in fact. It has to be concrete and specific, and it's not here. So the Supreme Court got rid of the injunction. The same whack job Boston judge appointed by Obama issued another injunction on another case that was like the mirror image of what the Supreme Court just lifted. The injunction the Supreme Court just lifted. So she's just a radical left-wing activist. That will get litigated again. The Postal Service, DHS, Homeland Security, they're going to have to come up with final rules. Those final rules, according to President Trump's executive order, include using a citizenship list from DHS, making sure that we're comparing that citizen list to the state's voter rules like California and other blue state hellholes where they clearly are putting non-citizens on these rolls in mass numbers and letting them vote in mass numbers. That's why the Democrats oppose the Save America Act, even though it has 80% of support of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats, a supermajority of minorities, and a supermajority of Black Americans who Democrats pretend are too stupid to get a voter ID and prove that they're American citizens so they can vote, when in reality, the Democrats just want illegal aliens to vote. Look, it's pretty obvious now between how the Democrats are reacting to the Save America Act and how they're reacting to the Supreme Court lifting this unlawful injunction by this Obama judge, that Democrats, their game plan, their business plan is for illegal aliens to get imported into this country, load them up with welfare, bribe them, send them ballots, and get them to vote for Democrats illegally. It is illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections, and that's exactly what Democrats are doing. To wrap this up, I would say this. These U.S. attorneys around the country, and Dan, you had to work with them. Some of them are good. Some of them are politicians. They need to step up, because if you are conspiring to use our postal service to commit election fraud, you could be charged with federal conspiracy along with mail fraud. And so the U.S. attorneys need to step up and start doing something.
We're talking to Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. Mike, that was a really thorough analysis of the EO there, the presidential EO. But just to follow up on this, because, excuse me, you, me, and many others have been warning for a long time about what you just said, that the Democrats' strategy for winning future elections from the House of Representatives, we're talking just federal side, there's obviously state stuff too, but House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, and the presidency, is not to pitch good ideas. There is no large constituency for open borders, for defunding the police, for confiscatory tax. There just isn't. You can't win on that idea. It's just a fact. Look at the polls, okay? So their strategy appears to be, even though they know voting by mail is prone to fraud, I can prove it. There's a 2012 New York Times article by Adam Liptak I cite all the time. When seniors were voting by mail in Florida and military folks who largely vote Republican back in 2012, before its widespread use, the New York Times hated it and wrote about rejection rates and fraud being twice as large as in-person voting. So they just acknowledged it's a huge problem, and they cite data. So their plan appears to make this ballot harvesting and vote by mail go national, import a bunch of folks into the country illegally, get them somehow registered, use them to replenish the population loss in blue states so you can hold on to your House of Representatives members and your electoral votes in the Electoral College for the presidency, and basically hijack and steal elections. I mean, they're not hiding it. This is their only plan. It's certainly not a battle of ideas.
Yeah, and they're not hiding it. It's not only their plan, it's what they just did in New York City, right? They changed the election laws to allow non-citizens to vote, right? It's just that is their game plan. If you look at Mandami, he doesn't have the support of American citizens. He has the support of illegals. He has the support of non-citizens, and that's what the Democrats are trying to do. The Democrat Party knows that they are no longer the party of American voters. They are the party of Islamists. They are the party of third worlders. They are the party of Marxists. They are the party of communists. And they're getting pretty brazen about the fact that they are very much relying on illegals, non-citizens, to illegally vote in our elections. They're replacing American voters. The replacement theory, as Democrats used to call it, is becoming the replacement reality.
Right. It's their, Mike, it's their theory. It's not ours. The demographic destiny / replacement theory argument is a Democrat battle plan. Us talking about it doesn't make us own it. It's yours. We're just talking about what's in your house, not what's in ours. I'm glad you brought that up because that drives me crazy. Crazy Republicans talking about racist replacement. We're not talking about it. You are. We're just highlighting you idiots talking about it. So, yeah, you're right. They talk about it openly. Let me change topics a bit because, again, another topic you've been vocal about on your Twitter feed, follow Mike Davis, Article 3 Project. He's fantastic. Is this myth of Department of Justice, FBI, U.S. Marshals, DEA, whatever it is, independence, as if it's a separate branch of government. Mike, this is used by the left for a couple of tactical reasons. When a Democrat's in office and government in the presidency, and government's weaponized like it was under Obama and Biden, they use it to say like, no. Those decisions weren't made by Obama and Biden. That was an independent FBI and DOJ. And then when a Republican's in office, they use it to encourage fake whistleblowers to come out and not enact the president's agenda. The Attorney General is selected by the president, confirmed by the United States Senate. The Attorney General and that heads the DOJ. The FBI is underneath the DOJ. None of these entities are independent of the will of the people in the executive branch. It is a liberal myth.
Yeah, it's let me just say this to these Democrat reporters who pretend that the Department of Justice is independent of the duly elected President of the United States. Every federal agent, every federal prosecutor in America reports to the Deputy Attorney General, who reports to the Attorney General, who reports to the President of the United States, who is elected by all Americans. And for Democrats to argue otherwise, when they do that, they simply prove there is a deep state, which they pretend is a conspiracy theory. We don't have another branch of government. I guess the Supreme Court did say that the Federal Reserve is somehow independent, which is a shocking case. But federal law, think about this. If you don't have the Attorney General and the rest of the Justice Department reporting to the duly elected President of the United States, that is the recipe for tyranny that Democrats pretend they're trying to protect against. Remember, it was Barack Obama who had his wingman, Eric Holder, politicize and weaponize the Justice Department against his political enemies. It was Joe Biden who did that on steroids. It was Jonathan Sue, Biden's deputy White House counsel, who waived President Trump's claim of executive privilege, which led to the Mar-a-Lago raid and 4 unprecedented Republican indictments against President Trump, including Jack Smith as a special counsel, a partisan Scud missile, right, who got overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court in a prior prosecution of Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, and they brought Jack Smith back. It was Matthew Colangelo who got deployed from the number 3 office in the Justice Department to Alvin Bragg's office in New York, Manhattan DA, Democrat DA, Alvin Bragg, to bring the first indictment of a president ever. It was Tish James who coordinated with the Biden White House to bring civil charges against President Trump. It was Big Fannie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, who hired her dumb, unqualified boyfriends who billed 16 hours of his time, $4,000 or $8,000, I believe it was, to meet with the Biden White House, including the Biden White House counsel, before they brought charges against President Trump. He was obviously billing on the Trump case because that was the only case on which he was a special counsel. So he was coordinating with the Biden White House to bring charges against Trump. I don't remember the Democrats during those 3 years of unprecedented Republican lawfare by Biden against Trump through Biden's Justice Department and through these Democrat DAs. I don't remember Democrats, including Democrat reporters, complaining about the independence of the Justice Department then. They only care about the independence of the Justice Department when we have Republican presidents.
Oh, it's so obvious. It's just they're not. It's as transparent as Scotch tape. I mean, you can see right through these idiots. And like you said, you're making an argument that the deep state that can be easily corrupted with no accountability is real. I don't know how you think you're helping your case with this fictitious, nonsensical argument. Anyone who has a basic understanding of the Constitution sees right through it. Let me move on to another topic as well. We've got midterm elections coming up. Obviously, presidential midterms for the opposing party are typically a good run. Bad run for the party in the White House. There's nothing unique about that. Happens all the time. However, I think we could both argue that during the Biden disastrous administration, a lot of people were predicting a huge, enormous red wave. That didn't happen. It wasn't a horrible election, but it wasn't the best election ever either. I think that's got a lot to do with gerrymandering. It's got a lot to do with polarization of the electorate. There's not a lot of split ticket voting that happens anymore. So what I'm getting at is that works for us too, though. Anyone saying, oh my gosh, listen, we're so unpopular, which is nonsense. We don't have a message to run on, and you're on the GOP side leaking to Playbook this stuff. There's no message. This is exhausting, okay? It's just nonsense. We have had an incredible 1.5 year run, Mike. The GOP message is simple. Borders closed, crime crushed. We're building things again. Yes, there are issues. There's still a lot of, inflation's not under control. We're still dealing with what Biden did with the spending blowout. Obviously, Iran has been ongoing and unpredictable, even though I think we have a good control over the strait now. But saying we don't have a message, despite the borders being controlled, crime at historic lows, and building things again in America, high-tech, quality materials, that's just, you're pretending it's a fait accompli. It's just because you're just lazy.
Yeah, this election is a clear choice for American voters. Do we want to continue President Trump's path of securing our border, expelling illegal aliens who are trying to replace our population and loot our welfare systems, including the most dangerous criminals in the world like Tren de Aragua, MS-13, Islamist, jihadist, other third worlders? Do we want to continue President Trump's crackdown on crime? I don't think that Dan takes enough credit for this, but Cash and Dan were instrumental in reducing crime in America, particularly violent crime in big cities. And so Dan will not, he's too modest to take a bow, so I will force him to take a bow here. Do we want to continue to have a secure border to secure our sovereignty as we, the people, the sovereign citizens of America, to secure our neighborhoods, to secure our families? Or do we want to go down the Islamist, path, the third worlder path, the communist path, where you have these dangerous radicals like Mendami, like this Democrat Senate candidates, like these other radicals who are running for office. And Chuck Schumer's not going to stop these guys if they take over the Senate. Hakeem Jeffries is going to lead the charge for these guys if they take over the House. And they are going to destroy our border. They're going to try to defund ICE. If they win in the midterm elections, they will spend 2 years destroying President Trump and his presidency. They'll try to win the trifecta in 2028, the White House, the House, and the Senate. And I'm warning the viewers, that is game over America if that happens. They will nuke the legislative filibuster, meaning 60 votes to 50 votes plus the vice president in the Senate. They will pack the Supreme Court with left-wing radicals. So from 9 seats to 13, 15, who knows the number of seats, with left-wing radicals like Ketanji Brown Jackson. They will strip us of our God-given rights as guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, our rights to speak, worship, associate, to protect ourselves. And then when they take away our ability to protect ourselves, our Second Amendment right, which protects us from government tyranny and government anarchy, that's when the Islamist, communist, Marxist play really becomes front and center. They're going to destroy our country. They hate America. They hate the West, and they're not even hiding it anymore, because these are not today's Democrats are not our parents or grandparents' Democrats. These are not people who love America and just disagree with us on the best way to get there. They hate America. They hate the West. They're very open about it. They don't believe in free speech. They believe in censorship. They don't believe in equality. They believe in equity, DEI, CRT, race-based division. They don't believe in due process of law, equal protection law. They believe in politicized and weaponized justice systems. That is your choice going into November. So don't be complacent. Don't be angry because Trump's only done 95% of what you want, and he hasn't done 100% of what you want. You have a choice in this election. You need to vote like responsible adults and not petulant children.
Right. And one of the things I admire about President Trump's leadership in the administration is President Trump is very sensitive to what the base needs. Now, Mike, you know, you've been around politicians, so have I. Most of them, let's just be honest, as if they're lame ducks and they're not running again, or maybe their polls are bad and they were just forced out, reluctantly, but they don't run again. They generally go into like Figmo, F it, got my orders, and they just don't care. You can see it. It's the examples, we could go over hundreds of them. President Trump's not running again. He's wealthy. He's got a great family, great wife. I mean, he really doesn't need this. But he still is extremely sensitive to the base, the people who got him there, and he never forgot that. He dances with who brought him to the party, and he always has. But one of the things I don't think he gets enough credit for, and I say this to both the liberal media, the communists, the hacks, the Democrats, and the doomers on our side who just want to constantly crap on him for what didn't happen yet, but may still happen, because again, he's very sensitive to the base, is President Trump's creative use of things that the media just ignores. Like you had mentioned the historic drop in crime, and I really deeply appreciate your words. We focus strongly on that, especially violent crime and how we could help. But I want to bring in another angle to this, which you understand. President Trump was the first president in modern history to creatively use Title VIII for immigration. In other words, why are we allowing these people we arrest for crimes in the United States who are here illegally to stay in the country? The old theory was, well, maybe they can be useful in other crimes, or like, we don't want to go through the whole immigration thing. President Trump, I remember him saying this to us. Why are we wasting United States attorneys' time, state jail space, federal jail space, all the money it takes to incarcerate these people, if we can just get them the hell out of the country? If they're not going to be like Sammy the Bull and provide information on the mob, then get them out. And this was a hugely impactful decision, which I think is, 30-40% of the drop in crime, maybe more, attributable to that alone.
Yeah, and here's the problem. Even if you prosecute these people, these left-wing judges are going to make it nearly impossible to put them in jail. So I'm all about sending these illegals back to their home countries. And when they pretend like they're persecuted back in their home countries, even though they go back to their home countries to visit during their illegal stay in America, then okay, you don't want to go back to your home country. How does the Central African Republic sound or Uganda sound? Because that's where you're going, right? And that is where President Trump has been so effective, and frankly, where President Trump's Justice Department team, led by Todd Blanche now, by Pam Bondi before, Cash, you, Dan, John Sauer, the Solicitor General, so many others, they have won monumental victories at the Supreme Court, particularly on immigration, but more broadly on the president's Article 2 executive power. And he has really laid the groundwork where we can ramp up deportations on a mass scale after going through a year of Democrat judicial sabotage, after 4 years, 8 years, 9 years of election interference, of weaponization of intel agencies and law enforcement. President Trump and his team are firing on all cylinders. And I would say this, that if you are here, I used to be pretty soft on immigration about 10 years ago. Not anymore. After Joe Biden let in 20 plus million illegals into our country, including the worst of the worst, the most vicious murderers, robbers, rapists, other violent criminals, after the Supreme Court, in one of their most egregious rulings ever, said that illegal aliens, Chinese birth tourists, Tren de Aragua somehow have birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. I have zero compassion now. We need to get illegal aliens the hell out of our country. They are all criminals, every one of them. Of course, we have to prioritize because we have resources we have to use the resources we have, but we need to get them the hell out of our country. We could not have our population replaced. I come from immigrants. I come from Irish immigrants. The Italians married into my Irish family like the Moors. And so I have Italian cousins. We come from a diverse country, but you need to assimilate. You need to want to become part of America. And we have Islamists and other third worlders who do not want to assimilate. They're not here to assimilate. They're here to conquer. They're here to steal our welfare, to defraud our country and destroy our country. We can't let these people in our country, and we need to get them the hell out of our country. If you do not share our Western, our American values, we do not want you here.
Yeah, indeed, brother. Indeed. Now you see why we love him, folks. Give him a follow on X, Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. I'll tell you, one of my favorite, if not my favorite commentator out there. Very sober analysis. He's not a cheerleader, but he's not a doomer. I promise you he's going to give you the lowdown on what all this stuff means. Now you got an explanation on the EO, Title VIII, all this stuff. Mike Davis, you're always welcome back to the show, a fan favorite of the audience. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for what you did for our country at the FBI.
Yes, sir. You're very welcome. Thank you. Mike Davis, folks. I've been a follower of Mike Davis on social media platforms for a long time. Whenever you need an explanation, a legal explainer. He was a law clerk for Justice Gorsuch. That's not an easy spot to get. Mike's going to give it to you, the down and dirty every single time. Whenever I play blackjack, how do you want the card? Down and dirty every single time. And Mike Davis, I'll give it to you. He's the dealer. He's the blackjack dealer. Folks, don't miss Sean Farish's new show at 1 p.m. Eastern Time every single day on Rumble, rumble.com/Sean. You can also check out Vince every morning, Ace at 8 a.m., rumble.com/Vince. Haley Carania at noon, rumble.com/Haley. You heard about the announcement in the beginning of the show. We are now going nationwide with Bongino Report AM. That's why we have a Bongino Report PM. Sean and I covering 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. national. As I said, we'll get you a station finder. It's just we're signing so many contracts. I want to make sure we get it down first. That's the only reason we haven't put it out yet. But the launch is coming up in September. Don't miss that. If you want to watch the show on the web every day, you can, rumble.com/Bongino. It's free. Just click that follow button. Or an easy way to do it is download the free Rumble app. Download it on your iPad. Download it on your phone. Download it on your smart TV. You can watch the show, join the chat every single day. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania.
I'm Sean Farish, host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
Host of Sean Farish Live. You can always catch my show right here.
Right here on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays.
1 p.m. Eastern time.
And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be
right here
and anywhere you find your podcast. Thanks for watching.
And thank you for your attention to this matter.